The Galactic Union's flagship, Vanguard, hovered in high orbit above the blue-green planet known as Earth. Captain Ryland stood at the command console, his silver eyes fixed on the holographic display in front of him. Data streamed across the screen: energy readings, atmospheric composition, planetary structures. Everything looked normal. Too normal. "Captain, we're receiving additional scans from the surface," said Lieutenant Vela, her fingers dancing over the control panel. "The species calls themselves humans. They appear to be in the early stages of spacefaring development. Ground-based industry, chemical propulsion, limited orbital presence." Ryland nodded absent-mindedly. First contact missions were nothing new. The Galactic Union had initiated over 100 of them, and they all followed a pattern. A young civilization just on the edge of interstellar travel, eager yet unprepared for the vastness of the cosmos. But something about these readings unsettled him. "What's bothering you, Captain?" Science Officer Taryn asked as he approached. Ryland gestured toward the holographic data. "Everything here aligns too perfectly with our models. Most civilizations develop in unpredictable ways. Some advance in medicine faster than in engineering. Some master space travel before stabilizing their planetary governments. But these humans, their progress is eerily uniform, like they're following a script." Taryn smirked. "Maybe they're just unusually disciplined. Not every species evolves in chaos like the Zenthari." Ryland remained unconvinced, but protocol dictated they proceed. Ambassador Leavena would be arriving in 3 days for the formal first contact meeting. Their job was to observe and prepare. For 72 hours, the Vanguard monitored Earth from behind its moon. They intercepted broadcasts, analyzed linguistic patterns, and studied cultural structures. Everything remained consistent: political, tensions, scientific advancements, social behaviors, all within expected parameters. Then came the humans' response. "Captain," Vela said, sounding perplexed, "Earth's leadership has replied. They've suggested a meeting in a location called Central Park in a city named New York." Ryland frowned. That was fast. Most civilizations took days, even weeks, to coordinate a response. "They've also provided a list of requested information," Vela continued. "Basic medical data to ensure safe interaction, diplomatic protocols for first contact, and questions about the Union's political structure." Taryn exhaled sharply. "That's thorough, almost rehearsed." Ryland agreed, but said nothing. There was only one way to find out if his suspicions were justified. 3 days later, the Vanguard descended into Earth's atmosphere, its cloaking field disengaging just before landing. The humans had prepared well: security barriers, a carefully arranged delegation, a clear protocol for greeting the extraterrestrial visitors. But it was the man who stepped forward that made Ryland's stomach tighten. "Welcome to Earth," the human said, his voice calm, his posture poised. "I am Dr. Elias Kwan, Earth's appointed representative for this historic occasion." Ryland barely managed to keep his expression neutral. The man had spoken in flawless galactic standard. "No translation device." No hesitation. Ambassador Vena, ever composed, stepped forward and returned the greeting. "Thank you, Dr. Kwan. The Galactic Union is honored by your hospitality." Dr. Kwan smiled. "We have been anticipating this moment for some time. Our scientists have studied your transmissions since your arrival." Ryland's breath caught. Their transmissions had been encrypted. The rest of the meeting proceeded with unnerving smoothness. The humans asked all the right questions about Union governance, interstellar commerce, biological compatibility. They expressed interest in potential technological exchanges, but never overstepped, never revealed curiosity beyond what a young species should. But Ryland watched their faces. Their reactions were measured, calculated. They showed no fear, no awe. They were acting exactly like a civilization that was meeting aliens for the first time. And that was the problem. They were acting. A month later, Vanguard suffered a catastrophic systems failure while orbiting Earth. All power is failing, Vela reported, voice tight with urgency. Gravity stabilizers are fluctuating. Life support is at critical levels. Rylan gripped the command console. They were drifting, helpless. If they descended into Earth's atmosphere uncontrolled, the ship would be lost. Then, a message came through. Galactic Vessel Vanguard, this is Earth Rescue Team Alpha. We have locked onto your position. Please stand by for assistance. Ryland's chest tightened. The humans should not have been able to offer assistance. Minutes later, 3 human spacecraft arrived. Their ships appeared crude. Chemical thrusters, basic alloys, no visible shielding. And yet, they maneuvered with a level of control that rivaled Union technology. Captain, Terran murmured, staring at his readings. Their systems are reading, as rudimentary, but the power signatures. This doesn't make sense. Aboard the Vanguard, a team of human engineers worked quickly. They carried tools that looked primitive but repaired complex quantum regulators with unsettling ease. Within hours, the ship was fully functional. As they prepared to leave, the lead engineer, Chief Lee, turned to Rylan with an amused expression. You might want to check your field harmonics, he said. A minor variance could cause instability. Rylan's blood ran cold. Humans should not know what a field harmonic regulator was. That night, he ran a deep systems diagnostic. The ship was functioning better than before, but buried in the logs was a simple message. You are asking the wrong question. It is not what we are hiding, it is why. Weeks later, Union diplomat Yara was visiting an Earth research station when she took a wrong turn. She found herself in a corridor that should not have existed. Before her stretched a pristine white hallway, walls glowing softly with no apparent light source. The structure was wrong. It did not match human architecture. Dr. Kwan appeared behind her. You took a wrong turn, he said, not unkindly. Yara turned to face him. What is this place? He studied her for a moment, then smiled. Would you like to see what's really down there? Yara hesitated, then nodded. The chamber she entered was vast. Holographic displays filled the air, depicting galaxies, advanced simulations, and surveillance logs of interstellar civilizations. Machines hummed softly, processing data at speeds beyond Union comprehension. This facility, Dr. Kwan said casually, is about 10,000 years old. We built it back when we were still pretending to be hunter-gatherers. Yara's stomach lurched. That's impossible, Dr. Kwan chuckled. Most civilizations assume that. Yara's pulse pounded. Then, why the deception? Because true advancement is not just technological, Dr. Kwan said. It is wisdom. When we revealed ourselves too early to others, it ended poorly. Societies collapsed under the weight of knowledge they were not ready for. So we learned to wait. Yara's hands trembled. The Galactic Union, all of us. We thought we were guiding you. Dr. Kwan's eyes gleamed. Every civilization must believe that, he said, until they are ready to learn otherwise. Yara's breath came unsteadily. And now? Dr. Kwan smiled. Now you are ready. As Captain Rylan received Yara's report, a single truth settled deep in his bones. The Galactic Union had never discovered Earth. Humanity had discovered them. And they had been watching, waiting, guiding them toward the inevitable moment when the truth could no longer be denied. Rylan sat in his quarters, the dim glow of the data screen illuminating his tense expression. Yara's report played on a loop in his mind. 10,000 years. That was how long the humans had been maintaining this facade. The Galactic Union had believed itself to be the advanced civilization, the guiding force of the galaxy, yet all this time they had been observed, studied, even subtly directed by a species that had perfected the art of hiding in plain sight. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. Come in, Rylan said, straightening his uniform. Science Officer Taryn entered, looking equally unsettled. He carried a data pad, but his eyes flickered with something Rylan had rarely seen in him: uncertainty. "I analyzed the ship's system logs again," Taryn said, placing the data pad on Rylan's desk. "The message hidden in our field regulator, it wasn't just a simple note, it was a layered code." Rylan leaned forward. "Meaning?" "Meaning it contained embedded data, coordinates, encrypted sequences, things that shouldn't exist within our systems." Rylan's brow furrowed. "And where do these coordinates lead?" Taryn exhaled. "Not Earth." He tapped the pad, and a star map projected into the air. "These coordinates point to an uncharted system near the galactic core, a system with no known settlements, no recorded exploration logs. As far as our archives are concerned, it doesn't exist." Rylan stared at the floating star map. If the humans had planted these coordinates, then it meant one of two things. Either they were baiting the Union into something, or they were inviting them to see something that had remained hidden for millennia. "What's the encryption sequence?" Rylan asked. Taryn hesitated. "It's not one of ours. It's familiar, though. It's close to the quantum algorithms we use for secure transmissions, but far more advanced." Rylan didn't like any of this. The humans had been careful, deliberate, playing the part of a developing civilization with eerie perfection. If they were choosing to reveal something now, it was because they had decided it was time. "Prepare a scout ship," Rylan ordered. "I want to see what's at these coordinates." Taryn hesitated. "Captain, if the humans wanted to hide something, why give us a trail to follow?" Rylan's jaw tightened. "That's what I intend to find out." The scout ship Eclipse emerged from hyperspace, its sleek frame silhouetted against the backdrop of an unknown star system. Rylan sat in the command seat, flanked by Taryn and Lieutenant Vela. The crew remained silent as they took in the impossible sight before them. A station hung in the void. But it wasn't just a station. It was a construct, a structure so massive that it dwarfed anything in the Union's archives. A ringed megastructure, kilometers wide, orbiting a black, lifeless planet. It was ancient, but still active. "What in the name of the stars is that?" Vela whispered. Taryn's hands trembled over his controls. "Energy readings are off the charts. This thing is still operational, but I have no idea how." A transmission came through, but not in Galactic Standard. The language was different, older, yet somehow familiar. The ship's AI struggled for only a moment before translating. "You have arrived. Welcome." Rylan's pulse pounded. "That wasn't a distress beacon," Taryn said. "That was an invitation." Rylan swallowed hard. The humans had sent them here for a reason. And if this station belonged to them, or worse, if it belonged to something older than them, then everything they knew about galactic history was about to change. "Send a response," Rylan ordered. "Tell them. We accept." The station's docking bay lit up. A passage opened, leading inward. The invitation had been acknowledged, and now the Union would step into the unknown. The corridors of the station hummed with a faint, ever-present energy, as if the structure itself was alive. Rylan, Taryn, and Vela moved cautiously, their boots echoing in the vast metallic halls. The architecture was unlike anything in the Union's database. Seamless, fluid, yet undeniably human in its design. Or rather, what humanity should have been had they revealed their true nature. "We shouldn't be here," Vela whispered. Rylan didn't answer. His attention was locked on the massive chamber ahead, where towering obelisks of glowing data streamed like rivers of light. And at the center of it all stood a familiar figure, Dr. Elias Kwan. Except this wasn't the same polished diplomat they had met on Earth. The man standing before them carried himself differently, like someone who no longer needed to maintain an illusion. "You made good time," Dr. Kwan said, his voice carrying through the chamber. I was beginning to wonder if you'd follow the trail. Rylan clenched his fists. What is this place? Quan exhaled, as if deciding how much to reveal. This is one of our observation centers, he said, built long before your kind discovered fire. Terran took a shaky step forward. You're saying humanity built this? When? Quan chuckled. Time is relative, but let's just say this station was already ancient when your ancestors were still learning how to sharpen stones. Vela's breath hitched. Why the deception? Quan's eyes darkened. Because civilizations collapse under the weight of knowledge they're not ready for. The Galactic Union believes it has guided young races, brought them into the light. But tell me, Captain Rylan, what happens when a child suddenly realizes their parent has been pretending to be weaker than them all along? Silence fell over the room. Rylan understood. If the Union had discovered the truth too soon, it would have shattered them. You controlled your development, Rylan said quietly. You created obstacles for yourselves. Let your people discover things they had known for millennia. Quan nodded. We had to. Otherwise, we would have stagnated. So we built layers of deception, carefully constructing the image of a species on the cusp of interstellar growth, just enough to be believable. Terran shook his head in disbelief. Then, why reveal this to us now? Quan studied them. Because for the first time in thousands of years, we've seen something different. We've seen a species that isn't just following the motions of progress, but is genuinely pushing itself forward. Your union has grown, not because you were guided, but because you fought to grow. Rylan's pulse quickened. So, what happens now? Quan smiled, and for the first time, Rylan saw something he hadn't before. Not amusement. Respect. Now, Quan said, we see if you're ready for the next step. The chamber around them shifted. The obelisks of data retracted, revealing a vast star map. Thousands of systems, some familiar, some unknown. This is what we see, Quan continued. A galaxy far greater than the one your union believes. It understands. Civilizations that exist in the shadows, species that have already reached ascension, and threats that would shatter worlds if left unchecked. Vela whispered, You've been protecting us? Not just you, Quan replied. Everyone. Rylan felt his throat go dry. The Galactic Union had always believed it was the great protector of the young civilizations of the cosmos. But all along, it had been humanity watching over them. And now, they were offering the truth. A choice. The chance to step beyond the illusion and into a reality far greater than they had ever imagined. Rylan took a deep breath. The galaxy had just become much, much larger, and he wasn't sure the Union was ready for it. Rylan stood before the vast star map, his mind struggling to grasp the scale of what he was seeing. The Galactic Union had always believed itself to be at the forefront of interstellar civilization, the guiding hand for younger species. And yet in this moment he felt small. He turned to Quan. You're saying the Union isn't alone? Quan chuckled. Captain, your Union is barely crawling compared to what's out there. He gestured toward the glowing constellations on the map. Some of these civilizations have never needed an alliance like yours. Others reached singularity and chose to remain hidden, much like we did. And then, there are the ones we protect you from. Rylan's heart pounded. Protect us? Quan's smile faded. Your Union has never faced a true existential threat. Not yet. Terran stepped closer, eyes scanning the map. You're saying there's something out there that even you fear? Quan tilted his head, as if considering his words carefully. Fear? No, we don't fear them. But we respect the danger they pose. He tapped a sector on the map, and a new image formed, a dark, swirling nebula, crackling with energy. The Union has never ventured here. You've mapped around it, dismissed it as a dead zone. Do you know why? Vela squinted at the display. There's no stable hyperspace lane through it. Quan nodded. A natural assumption, and one we carefully ensured you maintained. Rylan exhaled sharply. You've blocked the Union from exploring this region? For your own good, Quan said simply, because what lies beyond this nebula isn't ready to be discovered, and you aren't ready to face it. A silence settled over the room. Rylan had come here expecting answers, but all he had were more questions. If humanity had been subtly guiding the Union for centuries, shielding them from threats they didn't even know existed, then everything the Union thought about its place in the galaxy was a lie. He finally spoke. Why tell us now? Quan sighed. Because the balance is shifting. We've kept certain forces contained for millennia, but something has changed. They're stirring, and soon they will come looking. Rylan's blood turned cold. Who? Quan's gaze darkened. We call them the Hollow. The name alone sent a chill through the team. Terran tapped at his datapad, running searches through the Union's extensive database. I've never heard of them. You wouldn't have, Quan said. We erased their presence from every major galactic, archived centuries ago. If your Union knew what lurked beyond that nebula, you'd have gone looking. His expression hardened. And you wouldn't have come back. Vela's voice was tight. What are they? Quan hesitated, then gestured toward the star map again. This time it changed, showing a barren world, cracked and lifeless. Then, flickering images of ruined civilizations, derelict starships floating in the void, their hulls breached from within. We don't know where they came from, Quan admitted. Only that they consume. They don't negotiate. They don't conquer. They erase. Rylan clenched his fists. You've fought them? Fought. Contained. Manipulated, Quan said. We've kept them locked away, using strategies your Union can't even comprehend. But containment is failing. Terran's fingers trembled over his datapad. Are you saying they're coming here? Quan's silence was answer enough. The briefing ended with more questions than answers. Rylan and his team were escorted, back to their ship, their minds racing with the weight of what they had learned. Once inside the eclipse, Vela turned to Rylan. What do we do? Rylan didn't respond right away. His hands gripped the console as he stared out at the massive station, now fully aware that it was a remnant of a civilization far beyond anything the Union had encountered. They're testing us, he said, finally. Terran frowned. What do you mean? Rylan turned to face his crew. The humans. They could have kept this secret forever. Instead, they're giving us a choice. A choice? Vela asked. To stay blind, Rylan said, or to open our eyes. Silence filled the bridge. They all knew what it meant. If they returned to the Union with this information, it would shatter everything. The Galactic Union's illusion of superiority would crumble. And if the Union refused to believe them, if they ignored the warning, then the Hollow would come, and the Union would be unprepared. Rylan's jaw tightened. He would not let that happen. Set a course, he ordered. We're going back to the Union. Terran hesitated. And if they don't believe us? Rylan's gaze remained locked on the void ahead. Then we make them believe. The return to Union space was tense. Rylan had prepared for resistance. But he hadn't expected outright dismissal. The High Council listened to his report in silence. The revelation that humanity had been deceiving them for millennia caused murmurs of outrage. But the moment he mentioned the Hollow, the response shifted. Your claims are troubling, Chancellor Joran said, steepling his fingers. But do you have evidence of this supposed threat? Rylan's frustration flared. Did you not hear what I just said? The humans have been shielding us for centuries. If they say the Hollow are coming, we need to act. The Chancellor's expression remained impassive. And yet we have never encountered this enemy. How do we know they are real and not some fabricated boogeyman designed to elevate humanity's position over us? Ryland's temper snapped. Do you truly believe that? He pointed toward the star map. The humans have had every opportunity to conquer us if they wanted to. Instead, they guided us, protected us, and now they're offering us the truth. And you want to ignore them? Another counselor, a Scavanian diplomat, leaned forward. Captain, you must understand. If we acknowledge that humanity has been deceiving us, we admit that we were blind. His mandibles clicked in unease. And many will not accept that. Ryland's jaw clenched. So your pride is worth more than the survival of the Union? A long silence stretched across the chamber. Then, Chancellor Joran spoke. We will deliberate. The deliberation took days. Days that Ryland knew they didn't have. The humans had given them a chance, a warning, and the Union was wasting it. Finally, on the 7th day, Ryland received his answer. The High Council's decision was final. No action would be taken. They would not antagonize humanity. They would maintain diplomatic relations. But the Hollow? They were a myth. Ryland stood in his quarters, fists clenched. The council had chosen ignorance, a chime at. His door interrupted his seething thoughts. Come in. The door slid open, revealing a familiar figure. Ambassador Leah Vena. She stepped forward, her expression unreadable. You did everything you could. Ryland exhaled sharply. Not enough. Vena hesitated, then placed a small device on his desk. I've been in contact with Dr. Kwan. The humans anticipated this response. Ryland looked at the device. What is this? Vena met his gaze. A way forward. The device activated, displaying new coordinates. Not to Earth, but to the nebula the Union had never dared cross. The humans aren't waiting for the Union to act, Vena said. They're preparing for war. Ryland felt his pulse quicken. This was it. The Union had failed to see the truth, but that didn't mean he had to. He picked up the device and turned to his crew. We're going, he said. Taryn straightened. Where? Ryland's eyes darkened. To the front lines.